it's very unrealistic, and if they don't change it quickly, we are in deep trouble, because we cannot take US soybeans and US soybean meal, because there may be some very small traces of non-authorized GM varieties which are authorized in the US in the origin countries, but which are not yet authorized in Europe, because our authorization process takes longer. It's more countries, right? Takes longer. So this is something which jeopardizes the whole livestock industry. We need 20 to 24 million tons of soybean meal every year, and particularly in the current season, and in the 6 months from now, September, February, we need US soybeans, we need US soybean meal, which we cannot import. So there is a conflict of interest. And what's going to happen? We are going to pay premiums for South American meal to bring the South American meal to Europe, making South American meal more expensive, and bringing our livestock producers into a relatively bad profitability situation. It is a self-employed embargo, and it is a policy which is not sustainable, because our livestock industry is at risk with this policy. It's going to have an impact on these markets. So markets are in a transition phase. We are still in a very tight situation, September, February, but it's already beginning to look beyond this, and the outlook for April, September is much different. Economic prospects have improved, and this is also reflected in better demand for vegetable oils, for food, including meat in several countries. We have seen soybean meal imports increasing in several Asian countries since June. This may also be a reflection of a recovery. We expect a substantial growth in soybean meal, world soybean meal consumption by 4 million tons next season. By 6 million tons next season. But most of this growth is going to happen only in the second half of this season. World stocks of oilseeds are going to recover moderately, but stocks of oils and fats will continue to decline. The outlook for vegetable oils is quite bullish for 2010. I do not believe that soybean futures fall below $9 per bushel. In the cash market, soybeans are much firmer. The same is true for soybean meal. The US is totally sold out, as far as we understand from traders, for, I make it easy, 15 minutes. That's good. The US is totally sold out for soybeans and soybean meal for October, November. They are still selling November. So we are going to face a squeeze. It will be interesting to see how the exporters are meeting the challenge of satisfying world demand in a timely manner. This will be very difficult, we think, because South American supplies are so low, and everybody is jumping on the US supplies. Due to a shortage in soybeans, there is a shift in world crushings in favor of rapeseed and sunflower seed at the moment. We may see higher crushings of the high oil-yielding rape and sunflower seed as expected, or than expected, in the first half of the season, which tends to be bearish for the oil, because it's high oil yielding, and the rape and the sun, which is now coming in, which is now preferred because of better margins, their seed prices are still very attractive. This may delay the tightness in oils into 2010. Soya oil prices are at the moment relatively weaker than soybean meal. and US stocks are still high. And it's quite interesting to see that US soybean oil stocks have increased above Malaysian stocks, which is very unusual. Palm oil is tight. Palm oil stocks in Malaysia cover only something like 20 days or 22 days of consumption, which is tight, but the US stocks are still ample. And when it comes, this is part of the reason why oil prices are so much under pressure. And it remains to be seen how quickly the world market needs US oil. We expect this to happen quite soon, that we are going to see more purchases of US soybean oil, and that the US stocks of oil will be declining. It may occur from November onward, but at the moment, oil is the weak part. And part of the answer is the substantial decline in US consumption. Now, as I said before, the world is going to become more dependent on soybean oil, particularly in 2010, because insufficient supplies of palm, insufficient supplies of sun, and most likely also of rapeseed. Therefore, we need a higher crush. We need a higher crush for soybeans to generate more oil. But this will create the possibility of creating an oversupply of meal in 2010 unless meal demand picks up sufficiently. And this may be one of the dynamics in the coming months, particularly from January onward. At what price level will we see sufficient demand for soybean meal? It must be lower price level, but how far lower? I come back to this shortly. We see palm oil to be well supported at current levels and probably rise depending on weather damage and production in Malaysia and Indonesia in the next few months. There is a risk of higher oil prices also because of India and because of accelerating demand. Larger biodiesel production will be seen in Europe in 2010 because of more mandates, higher mandates. Mandatory admixture to diesel fuel will increase in Spain, in Italy, in the UK, in the Netherlands, not in Germany, but in the European Union in total. Now, price prospects for March, August 2010. So soybean crush needs to be boosted because of oil. Meal will come under pressure. Difficult to say by how much. My guess is that soybean meal prices could fall by 80 to 100 US dollar in March, August 2009. Soybean prices could fall below $8 per bushel if weather is fine and if the South American crops comes up to my current estimates. Higher global demand for soya oil